looking at some early waiver wire options. So for those of you looking to get ahead of your moves on Tuesday, here are the players that could be important to your leagues. The quarterback list, and we know the quarterback position has been very, very bad. As we always tell you, it's going to be deep and successful. Well, it hasn't necessarily been the case. So you got Jared Goff against Seattle, good matchup there. Marcus Mariota coming off a decent performance against Seattle. Matt Ryan, a good performance against the Chiefs. Ryan Tannehill after a big game against the Raiders. Might be time to start stashing Kenny Pickett and Zach Wilson, and Jacoby Brissett might not be somebody we want to ignore moving forward. So Adam, since you've been waiting to join us here on the show, tell me the option and the player that you're looking at the most if you need a quarterback, clearly factoring in where the roster percentage is.
Yeah, those top two really stand out above the rest. I only like Matt Ryan in a scenario where I think they're going to have to throw a lot. So I thought he could be okay in week 3. I don't think he's going to have a great matchup here against Tennessee, a great situation for him. So Goff and Mariota really stand out. I hope Amon-Ra St. Brown is closer to 100%. He didn't seem to be as productive after he suffered a little bit of an injury in week 3, but they can get him going a little bit more in week 4. I prefer Goff over Mariota, but those two are really not bad waiver wire options. If you're still struggling. I don't think I'm going to go start them over Tom Brady if Mike Evans comes back, but I think there's certainly a scenario where I'm looking at Goff or Mariota this week.
Yeah, I would. It's definitely those two. I think I'd probably flip them and go Mariota over Goff just for the rushing upside of what Mariota can do with his legs. But those are definitely the top 2 options and probably going to be borderline top 15. I'm not sure if I'll have them ahead of Brady and Russell Wilson or not, but they might not be far off.
Yeah, the thing that would concern me about Mariota, if Clowney comes back for the Browns and the pass rush is complete, and that Cleveland defense, I know they didn't look great through the first 3 weeks of the season, but I still think there's so much upside there that I don't know how much Mariota would be. I'd be comfortable with Mariota after knowing that what he just did against Seattle and knowing that Goff does get that Seahawks defense. So hopefully taking advantage of it. Like Adam said, we need to have a healthy Amon-Ra St. Brown there as well. Let's talk about the running backs. And again, this is a little bit of a sliding scale because we know not everybody is available in your leagues with some of the players we're going to show you. But Alexander Mattison, knowing the situation with Dalvin Cook. You got Jamal Williams with the scenario of what's happening with DeAndre Swift. Khalil Herbert. This is where we start to get in guys that could be available with the David Montgomery injury. And then some potential stash candidates. You got Jalen Warren, J.D. McKissick, Justice Hill. We'll see. McKissick is somebody you can use in PPR. And then obviously another injury situation there when it comes to P. Ryan. So, Adam, since Heath already talked about this, if you're in a 10-team league and Madison's available, Williams is available, Herbert is available, which one are you running to get first?
Well, I think it's going to have to be Jamal Williams because Dalvin Cook and David Montgomery have a better chance of playing in week 4 than DeAndre Swift does. DeAndre Swift looks like a multi-week absence here. This is the second injury for him this year. He's never played more than 13 games in a season. So I think Jamal Williams, to me, is, I hate to say this, clearly the least talented of these 3. I think he has one run in his entire career of more than 25 yards. He has almost 700 carries. So he needs a lot of volume, but he's going to get a lot of volume. He's going to be worked in the passing game enough. And he would be last if I knew that Montgomery and Cook were both going to be out in week 4 or maybe even beyond, but they might both play. So I think Williams has to be number 1. After that, I would go with Khalil Herbert here. This guy is really, really good, and I think he has a chance to be relevant even if David Montgomery plays. Relevant, whereas Madison has basically no chance of that if Dalvin Cook is healthy.
I guess the one thing would be with Madison is that you know that there's a scenario, especially with what Dalvin Cook's injury history has been, another shoulder injury, that there could be maybe a multi-week absence down the road if he takes another shot to the shoulder, doesn't wear his harness, whatever the case may be when it comes to him, because Madison has been amazing every time Dalvin Cook has been out. We'll see if Khalil Herbert can do it when he's not playing the Texans, for example, but he does get the Giants in week 4. Coming off a short week, we'll see if Leonard Williams is eligible to play in that game. Just real quick on Samaje Perine, we don't know the status of Joe Mixon. Zach Taylor indicating that he could be okay, but with a short week, who knows? How good could Perine be if he starts?
It would be a high-end flex. Like those other guys we talked about, I said all of them would be top 20 running backs for me this week. Williams, Madison, and Herbert. It's more of a high-end flex situation with P. Ryan. I do think he might share a little bit more than those guys do, and it may not be a very good matchup.
All right, let's go down to the wide receivers and the players that we're looking at here. This is more in line of the range of guys that we typically tend to talk about. So it starts with George Pickens down to Devin Duvernay. Some guys that have been playing very well of late. Tyler Boyd coming off a big game. Russell Gage, same thing. Josh Palmer, you kind of know the situation. As long as Keenan Allen's out, Palmer's been great the last 2 weeks. Parker was great without Jacoby Myers on the field. Duvernay scored now 3 touchdowns on the season. Did miss week 2, but scored twice in week 1. Scored against the Patriots on Sunday. The most added wide receiver probably coming is Romeo Doubs. But Isaiah McKenzie coming off a strong game. You're attached to You're attached to Josh Allen, Isaiah McKenzie. That means they're playing New Orleans, not London. They're playing New Orleans in London. And then Zay Jones and Josh Reynolds. We'll keep an eye on Reynolds' injury, but as Adam alluded to, you have the Amara St. Brown potential injury to keep an eye on there for Detroit. Adam, you alluded to this. Mike Evans coming back, but Russell Gage without Chris Godwin, without Julio Jones. Can Russell Gage build off what he did in the game against the Packers? 13 targets, 12 catches, 87 yards and a touchdown. Can this be the start of something that could be good for him until Godwin's back?
Yeah, I think that's the key, until Godwin's back. And I would say, really, when Mike Evans comes back, Russell Gage has a much lower chance of catching a touchdown, obviously, and just isn't going to be as good. I think most of that first list that we showed is fool's gold. Almost everybody on that list did something because somebody was missing. And in the case of Devontae Parker, I could buy it a little bit, but it looks like Mac Jones is going to lose some time. So Romeo Doubs would be my favorite. I like him better than Russell Gage. I think Greg Dortch, I don't think he was on that list. He's somebody that you might want to be looking at until Rondale Moore comes back, and then certainly we have 3 more weeks before Hopkins comes back. But Doubs, to me, is the best of everybody there, because most of the players that had good weeks and are on the waiver wire had good weeks because somebody else was missing. And when those guys come back, I think it's going to be tough sledding for most of those players.
Let's just talk about Devin Duvernay, then we'll move on to tight ends. We know the volume's not there.
Right.
And the volume's probably not going to be there. But you are still talking about, as Pete alluded to, maybe the MVP of the league in Lamar Jackson. Is he any semblance of a priority for you?
It's more of a 14-team type guy who I'm hoping is still doing this when we get to the bye weeks. And then I can just plug him in, and I know that there's no floor at all, but he's got the ability to score a touchdown every week because he plays with Lamar Jackson.
Yep, and look, if Rashad Bateman gets hurt, Bateman had 2 for 59. It's not going to be 10 targets, but 5 to 8 targets for Lamar Jackson could lead to a touchdown. Probably better in non-PPR leagues than PPR leagues. And to Adam's point about Greg Dortch, we also had A.J. Green leaving the game with a knee injury, so that's another guy to keep an eye on. We'll talk about him a little bit more on Tuesday. The tight ends, you see the guys here. David Njoku, huge game on Thursday. Robert Tonyan got 6 catches on 7 targets from Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he's building towards something. Tyler Conklin, the number 3 tight end in fantasy right now, and then Cameron Brate. We'll see what happens with him moving forward when everybody's back healthy. But Tyler Conklin should absolutely be added, because even if Zach Wilson can't get him the ball, you want to at least have the opportunity to see what happens and what develops with him moving forward. The number 3 tight end in fantasy so far, Tyler Conklin. We all thought it'd be Kyle Pitts, of course. We knew it would be Tyler Conklin.